Hi everybody, this is Dee over at Aloha Astro. Let's take a look at today's new moon in Leo, which is occurring at 10:41 p.m. Eastern Time. It's August 18th, 2020, and it will be at 26 degrees 35 minutes of Leo, which is a fixed fire sign. So let's read what I've written for the forecast for today. And new moon in Leo, Tuesday, August 18th, ignites passion and emboldens you to pursue your life purpose as the moon joins the sun and Mercury in Leo, and together they form a trine to Mars in Aries and a sextile to the North Node in Gemini. The Yod aspect pattern that has been opening the door for inspired creativity directed toward constructive growth this past week is more potent now as the moon joins the sun and Mercury, giving further support to Neptune in idealistic Pisces and Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in success-minded Capricorn. A second Yod involving Saturn, the North Node, and the Leo planets encourages you to take your desires seriously and commit to your plans or person. A new moon always highlights new beginnings, and this new moon is burning bright with creative, dramatic, playful, heart-centered Leo fire, mingling with the fire of the action planet Mars in its ruling sign of pioneering, headstrong Aries. With your heart and head in elemental harmony, you are a force of nature about to blaze a trail. Anticipate sparks as you turn up the heat. Obey your heart. So let's take a look over at Planet Watcher and see what the patterns are. And here you can see the one Yod with the Capricorn planets. Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn are all currently retrograde, and the two quincunxes that they are forming here with the Leo planets of Mercury, Moon, and Sun, and with the North Node in Gemini. And that, of course, is joined by that sextile here between the Moon, Sun, Mercury, and the North Node. So your creativity is being directed toward something that you're curious about, something that you feel might be your destiny or path. There's experimental or curious energy coming out of the Gemini influence, and then there's a lot of courage and passion and heart connection that comes from Leo. Gives you the boldness and the courage to step forward and basically dream big. Or if there are things that were big plans in your life earlier and you did not get to do them, then there may be a time to revisit things that you wanted to do before and were not able to for whatever reason, or if you procrastinated or put things off. We have an excellent antidote to procrastination with Mars in Aries, which is definitely full of go get it energy and very active. And that makes a trine to the Leo planets right now and a sextile to the North Node, completing this little triangle, enclosed triangle here. Any enclosed geometric pattern in aspects is going to have more potency, more power than an open-ended aspect without some constructive geometry around it. So I think the main thing to look for here is not just the new moon and Mercury, but the fact that we have the North Node incredibly active right now with Mars, with the Leo planets, with the quincunx here to Saturn, and technically Pluto and Jupiter are kind of daisy-chained along with Saturn. There's still an influence there of these planets, the planet of growth and abundance and the planet of power, control, upheaval, transformation, with the planet of constructive systems and foundations and authority, responsibility, mastery. So it is time to step up and basically say you're going to do something and that you're going to make a choice, make a decision, and see how it goes, and put in your physical energy, put in your creativity, put in your heart, your passion for something. We have another quincunx. It's easier to see earlier in the day. It's beginning to fade a bit. Let me just put in AM so you can see that we had it more clearly there when the moon was just a little bit before it hit that 26, 27 degrees. Earlier in the morning, it's forming the exact quincunx to the 20-degree Pisces, but it is technically still going to be felt. We've been feeling this. It's been around for about a week, maybe more. It seems like every day I write a forecast and I'm looking at that yod. It is a time for some sort of a divine shift, and to connect with what your heart is telling you about things, and to follow spiritual guidance that you're receiving, to trust in your intuition and your faith, and to go for things that are big, not to be afraid, to go ahead and move ahead. Of course, we have some activating energy with the friction of squares in here. We have Venus and Mars in squares, and we have Venus in an opposition to Jupiter. Now, they are two benevolent planets, so they're not necessarily as challenging in opposition to each other as they would be if it were, let's say, Venus opposing Saturn. In this case, Venus opposing Jupiter, it brings in some moderation, and it may also delay the achievement of desires to a certain extent, or make you really want it more to the point where you know you have to do something about it. It's not all going to be handed to you on a plate right now, despite the fact that we have a lot of nice, inspired fire, active fire, wanting to go after something and pursue and be in pursuit. There has to be a reason for it. There has to be some displeasure or discomfort coming from somewhere else that makes you want to change and do things different. And we do have a sextile between Venus in Cancer and Uranus in Taurus, so something's got to give or something's got to change, and it may be very financial, maybe about what you have always felt was sure or secure, or whatever brings money or flow of money to you. You may be realizing that something has to change, or you need to speak up, or you need to put pressure upon powers that be. You know, if you're wanting a raise, let's say from a boss, now's a good time to get up your courage and go in and ask. If you need to raise your prices with clients, now's a good time to do it. And it may come out of the fact that you look at your budget for the month and you realize that you have more month and less money, and it's time to correct that. If you're feeling pinched financially and not able to care for your family properly on a financial level, then you may need to look at what you can do to change that. And the square between Venus and Chiron is definitely indicating that it's kind of up to you to help fix this. Otherwise, you may be waiting on others. And here, Mars is square to those Capricorn planets as well, and that is producing some friction or tension, especially looking at things like politics and government. And I think the main thing that comes out of this is that you may want to speak up and be more active, or you may become more aware of how this impacts you personally, because Aries is a very personal sign. Aries is the cardinal fire sign that says, I am. So you may be feeling something and be affected by things going on politically or governmentally, and that might encourage you to take some actions, to speak out, or to study more, learn more, check facts, investigate candidates, look at what you want or expect out of your elected officials. So it's a pay attention aspect is what I would consider this. And in terms of your own personal work, pay attention. Where have you been sloppy? Where have you been not on your best game? You know, where could you have stepped up and you haven't? And maybe it's time now to recognize that you have enough knowledge or wisdom or authority, and that you have to be more proactive to go after the success or the growth or the money that you desire, and that it's not necessarily going to come to you without some work or some decision on your part to step into the mastery of Capricorn. So they are not necessarily terrible squares. They're necessary, I believe, to be able to activate and utilize the full creative energy and power, and to ignite the passion of the heart toward pursuing what you desire. Otherwise, there'd be no motivating factor. Maybe in questions of commitment, love, and relationship, if suddenly there's a lack of attention, or you find that your partner is, wandering, or nothing's been moving forward as you would like it to, maybe it is time to have that discussion about where everybody's hearts are and what are their intentions for the future, and either decide that you're going to move forward because you believe you have reason to be together, or you decide that it may be in both your best interests to have a little bit of space. And it can go either way right now, because these yods are pulling on that north node, and that north node is in a mutable sign. So the question of commitment is really dependent upon two people and the communication from the heart as to what they want to do. And then each individual voice, each person as an individual, has to be given the chance to express and be heard and respected, and then decisions made. I would say that there's a room for a lot of honesty, even if sometimes it's not what you want to hear right now. It's probably the best thing to happen is to have some authentic and honest communication from the heart, rather than pretending, going on believing, holding on to a possibility, or anything like that. So speak your own personal truth, follow your heart. And while we have both Leo and Aries very active, and the Uranian energy here, and the North Node, I think it's really important for everybody to be authentically themselves, and to not modify themselves all that much. I mean, yes, we have to be polite to other people, but to try to be somebody else in order to hold on to somebody else or to be accepted is not loving yourself. It's just not going to be happy for you in the long run. And the other thing when you do that is really you're cheating the other person of having you and experiencing you. If you can't be fully present as you for somebody else, then you're denying them something, you're withholding something from them. And I do think that this new moon may make you more aware of your own special talents. It's a creative moon. Leo is very creative, but you don't necessarily have to, be painting or dancing. There are so many forms of creativity and expression that you can tap into under that Leo moon. Just tune into your heart and what you feel inside you, and then allow it to come out in whatever way feels comfortable for you, or maybe try something new. You might find if that you try something new, you might like it. So despite the fact that Venus squares Chiron in Aries, well, that's not the way I'm used to it being, or whatever. And then the sextile here to Uranus and Taurus, oh, that new way actually isn't too bad. I like this new person, or I like this new food, or I like pottery, or I like dancing, or whatever you might decide to choose to do. You might find that you like it if you release the blocks and the fears around stepping into something different. Don't be afraid for changes within yourself right now. And the people who truly do love you are going to be accepting of those changes. And if you go through changes and people fall away, then you're just not at the same frequency anymore. And that's that. Love them and let them move on, and love yourself and you can move on. So don't be afraid of changes that may come about at this new moon. And definitely, if you want to instigate them, go right ahead. It's a great time for initiating and starting, despite the fact that we still have some retrograde energy. By the time we get to the end of September, both Jupiter and Saturn will have gone direct. One goes direct on around the 14th and the other on the 28th. I forget which is which. And then in the beginning of October, we have Pluto, excuse me, go direct. So we will have them shifting forward as we get a little bit further on. And when we look at our lunations in September, we're going to be looking at the Virgo and Pisces and discernment, and the practicality and the spirituality is going to be the focus, and discernment and boundaries, and where you don't have any and where you might need to put some down, where you need to prioritize and maybe focus. So we're coming up to that, but we're not there yet. Right now, it's about playing, creativity, following your heart, becoming inspired and impassioned, while we have this yod, which is beautiful, and another yod here, also beautiful. So go on out there and play and be creative and be bold in dating and romance. You might meet the love of your life, if you step up and say hi. All right, let's take a look at the Sabian symbols for what's going on right now. The Sabian symbol for the moon, we round up to 27 degrees, the luminescence of dawn in the eastern sky. Keynote, the exalting challenge of new opportunities at the threshold of a new cycle. While the rainbow marks the end of the crisis, early dawn indicates the real beginning of the new period of activity. In the biblical symbolism, Noah plants his vineyard. He begins to teach the secret doctrine which he inherited from those Ben Elohim, sons of God, who had not been sucked down into whirlpools of materiality. After the peak experience, in which we touch our divine potentialities, comes the struggle with everyday problems. But at first the state of deep inner exaltation remains within us. We are aglow with its promise. The crisis and the blessings it has brought to us are relatively unusual events. Every day has its dawn, which we should meet with a pure heart and a clear mind. Alpha, dawn, and Omega, the concluding peak experience, are opposites, yet the same. The key word here is illumination. I definitely feel there's the potential for that with the two yods and the North Node, which is all about fate, destiny, what your path or purpose is. And here we have the reference to pure heart and clear mind. And I feel while we have Mercury, Sun, Moon in Leo, and Mars in Aries, we are on track. It's burning out. The Mars and Aries in that trine is kind of burning out the stuff that's not necessary and helping you to clarify and get down to that heart and mind balance and having them be one and the same. It does reference back to the previous degree, which was after the heavy storm, a rainbow. And, we can argue that at 26 degrees 35 minutes, we're still within that degree. So let's read through it. Linking above and below the covenant with one's divine nature, promise of immortality. In the Bible, the rainbow is the sign of the covenant established by God with Noah, the cyclic seed man, guaranteeing that no longer shall the destructive power of spirit, the Shiva aspect of the divine, be used to destroy life on earth. As we come to the third level of the scene of release, we find the man who has been able to weather the cathartic storm face to face with his divine archetype. Because he has been victorious, a link has been established with his divine soul being. Both the human and the divine partners should remain thus linked. H.P. Blavatsky's last words are said to have been, "Keep the link unbroken," the link she forged with the Trans-Himalayan Brotherhood that had sent her into the darkness of 19th century materialism for this purpose. At the first stage of this 30th sequence, the symbol of the rainbow shows us the need to maintain a state of open communication between the sky and the earth within our total being, not for the sake of finding an ever-elusive pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, for this end is never to be reached, but in order to face the totality of our individual selfhood as it is projected in the many-hued dome of our sky-flung consciousness. After every successfully met crisis, the revelation of worth comes to us, and with it comes the promise of success, if only we do our part. So that was the lead-in degree to the one that is associated with the exact degree of the full moon right now. And there's a lot of words in there, a lot of word salad. If you study New Thought from the 1920s, you would understand a bit more of this, and I don't want to go into a lot of time over that, but if you're interested in finding out more, you can look up her name and read about the Brotherhood and Ascended Masters and the work that she did while she was here, but it's just way too much to talk about. I think the link between the spiritual and the material is important, and I definitely see that with the Yods, the fact that Neptune ties in here very strongly the spiritual side of life with Neptune in Pisces, which is its ruling sign, and the strong materialism of Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn in its ruling sign. So finding the point of what I feel like is the creation or the distillation into the more human form, or for the human to recognize, both those points. There's the Yod with Leo, and I often associate Leo with, common man and the ability to center into the heart and raise consciousness up to that royal energy of Leo that it's associated with when the heart is pure and open, and the shadow side of Leo, when the heart is cold or shut down, or there's no connection to the heart, is the extremely strong ego, the arrogance, the motivations for things like revenge and extreme competition. And competition is definitely a Leo thing, but competition can be healthy and playful and lead toward growth, or competition can be destructive. So the higher path of Leo right now, I believe, is what the Yods are pointing toward, opening up toward. So focus on the heart chakra in your meditations, breathe into it, and listen to what your heart has to tell you. All right, I think we've hit on everything, and if you want to know what's going on in your own chart, I have a schedule appointment button on the top of my site at Aloha Astro, and I'd love to work with you. Everybody be safe, stay healthy, and enjoy this new moon in Leo.